Okay, so in this video, I want to target plumbing firms that are based in Berkshire and more specifically, around the Reading area. Essentially, I just want to highlight a few of the opportunities for keywords and essentially traffic and new business inquiries. So I'm going to make a few assumptions that, again, like I say, you're based in Reading, you offer plumbing services, but you may work within some of these surrounding areas, coming down here to Crowthorne, Thatcham, Newbury. Specifically, Newbury is what I want to show here. Google says it's about a 30-minute drive from Reading, so I'd probably assume that there'd be a fair few plumbing firms that are based in Reading that do travel to some of these areas. And essentially, I just want to show that there's people in these areas searching for these kinds of plumbing services, and if you go ahead and you set your website up in such a way that you're actively and specifically trying to target this traffic from these areas, you can pull in traffic from Google from these searches in these areas and bring them to your website. And then once they're on your website, if you've got things set up in a certain way, you can essentially convert them into new inquiries. So let's go here to Google Keyword Planner. So like I mentioned, I'm just going to kind of show some ideas for Newbury. And here you've got a few keywords. So emergency plumber Newbury, blocked drain Newbury, boiler service in Newbury, and then a general one, plumbers Newbury. Obviously, plumbers Newbury is a lot more general, and that's why, we've got a higher volume here. But I would say definitely do not discount these searches here, because although these are much lower search terms in terms of volume, they're a lot more specific. You're not entirely sure what someone needs a plumber for when they're typing this into Google. But obviously with these, block drain Newbury, it's, well, I mean, the clue is in the keyword itself. So therefore, if you position yourself a page on your website, each of these would be targeted by its own specific page. So if you target this keyword with a page on your website, and you set the title tag, the H1, the content, and generally the focus of that page around this specific keyword, because the search volume is low, you're going to have a much better chance at ranking this quite high on Google. And then if you get the people clicking on your search result, obviously in Google, there's a list of different search results. If they end up clicking on yours, and like I mentioned before, if you've got things on your website set up in such a way that they feel that they can trust you, they feel that your service is going to resolve their issue. The issue here being, they've got a blocked drain. And if you set things up in such a way where you've got what we call a good on-page conversion rate, you're going to have a decent chance of turning that into an inquiry. They're going to go on to either call you, email you, text you, however it is that you've got your website set up to handle inquiries, you're going to have a good chance of capturing that as an inquiry. Whereas if you've only got this page set up for Plumbers Newbury, Google might not even think that your page that you've set up, advertising that you're a plumber and you work within Newbury, it might not even think that you're relevant enough for this keyword or emergency plumbers Newbury. So you might be missing out on these keywords. And because these are different enough, they're all interlinked in so far as they're related to plumbing services. But Google knows there's different intent behind these, so you can quite safely set up separate pages for these different search terms. And then you've got a good chance, like I say, if you adhere to all good principles of SEO, you've got a good chance of ranking well for some of these keywords, especially these lower search volume keywords, because the keyword, the competition is going to be significantly less than this. There's a lot of traffic out there that you can try and capture. You just need to set things up on your website in such a way that you're actually positioning yourself to specifically go after these keywords with a specific page of your website. You haven't just built a website, explained what it's about and released it, because Google doesn't know. Google is not going to think to rank you for this independently. You've got to set things up so you're instructing Google essentially. So like I mentioned, that's just for Newbury. I mean, there's all these other search areas here. I mean, just because they exist doesn't mean that all these keywords, you can't just do emergency plumber, Wokingham, for example, or boiler service. Let's go here to Bracknell. I mean, it may well be the case that there's good search volume, but it requires good keyword research to actually go through and find these opportunities. And with Google Keyword Planner, it's going to give you some extra ideas here. And so one thing I would say is that when you've got this one as well, heating engineer Newbury and then plumbers Newbury. Now these, the search intent is more or less the same. So I wouldn't create a separate page for these because the search intent, this tells me that the search intent is very similar. So I would just create this page and then you can maybe have heating engineer Newbury as a subheading on that page, and that will just help with this using it as a related keyword to kind of bolster that page rather than trying to create a separate page, which it almost splits the potential because Google sees that they are separate keywords, but they're very, very similar. The intent is very similar. So me personally, I would not create a separate page for this one. I'd include that keyword onto this page. And the same for this one here. Look, block terrain, they're searching and telling Google what their problem is. And drain unblocking, I mean, this is very similar. Again, I would not create a separate page for this one. So that's just a bit of a snippet into how I would personally recommend going around and doing some keyword research based on your service area and based on the services that you do offer, and how you can, if you set things up on your website where you've got a specific kind of template that you would use, that you can kind of fill with the appropriate content based on what the service is, and then you can essentially set that page up to target whatever the specific keyword is that you're trying to go after based on that keyword research. There's actually a lot of, like I say, a lot of low-hanging fruit where you can bring in these extra clicks from Google. And again, if you've got your website set up in such a way that it's got a good conversion rate, you can actually capture a lot more search traffic and turn that search traffic into new inquiries for your business. I hope that's been useful. And as always, feel free to reach out if you have any specific questions. I'll add a link in the description of this video where you can contact me. Okay, thank you.